Man, I'm excited about this podcast. I'm bringing Dr. Anthony G. Beck back by popular demand, but he's going to talk about something that's going to freak you out and excite you at the same time. There's a trace mineral product out there now that can actually transport the nutrients into the cell and deal with the waste products as well. It's never been seen before. It's got an electrical delivery system. You have to learn about this. It supports hydration, digestion, hormones, enzyme activity, endurance, stamina, and cellular health. So this is one thing we're going to talk about. But then, as usual, he's going to shock you when it comes to TIS detox, CBD, parasite cleanses, the root cause protocol, and the most effective probiotic that you can make at home in your kitchen. So let's just get started right away, because I love this episode and I cannot wait to share it with you.
Patients is they're excited about the power of the TRS. They're excited about the power, of the castor oil, their power of the cannabis. There's all kinds of wonderful molecules. But hold on a minute. Are you ready for it? I mean, in surgery, we have to prep the area. You better be ready. When we remodel a house, we don't just start tearing it out. You have to go, okay, where are we going to put it? So you order the garbage can to be out in front, and then you put your tarps down, and then you get ready for it. We never purify first. You got to build.
No, we never do that either. You can actually tell a good practitioner from a bad practitioner. Just run away from anybody who starts with anything called detox or chelation.
That's 100% right. I don't care if it's parasites, heavy metal, mycotoxins, mold, Lyme, whatever. But you have parasites in your brain, your eye, your liver, your pancreas, your lymphatics. They can be all kinds of places. Don't think that a few little drops of a Paragard or something like that is going to get all parasites. So you can't just do a parasite cleanse. Then, remember back what I was just saying earlier? The die-off. They don't go easy. And they are built. They're parasites. It was a hydration product, which is phenomenal. It was really great. But I built it with a certain technology that I developed. So I have the ability to enhance the way that minerals behave and are taken up by the body by using, an electrical current, a light frequency, a sound frequency, and movement. So it's a field. It changes the nature of it. Just like you can, there's a balloon, but if you rub it on your head and you get static on it, it'll stick to the wall. Okay, so we can use charge to change things.
And is that what you've been using in this product?
Absolutely. So I wanted to bring something that is for everyone, every man, woman, and child, and even our pets, birds, dogs, cats, all of them, a way to put in these molecules that bring nutrients into the cells and help facilitate out the cellular byproduct waste, because that requires the energy. But then also, hey, how about we give these minerals and these molecules that you're not eating? Like I love purple dulse, and I love kelp, and I love spirulina and chlorella, all these kind of things. I love wheatgrass, barley grass, alfalfa grass. I love bee pollen, right? See those, but who's going to go and eat a pound of alfalfa? So if you can eat it, eat it. If you can't, but you want its nutrient density, supplement that. So I'll show it here because I put it in everything. You're like today, I was like, oh.
Back by very popular demand, Dr. Anthony G. Beck. We both just made coffee. We're going to need strong coffee today for this episode. I don't think I've ever had so many requests for one single guest to come back on. And so I know you are expected, and I know people expect you to shock us all, and you're not going to disappoint today, I know. We're going to talk about a lot of different things today. We're going to talk about minerals and TIS, which you told me is absolute rubbish. We're going to talk about mold, hair mineral analysis, detox, and probiotics, and the trends and myths and misunderstandings in the health and wellness field when it comes to ADHD and autism specifically, and moms specifically. So welcome, Dr. Anthony G. Beck. How have you been? It's been a couple of years.
I know, right? But you know, all kinds of lovely and deliciousness going over on here in the States, Central Florida. So we're still loving the sunshine.
I know you're doing well. You're looking good.
Thanks.
Why is what you're doing still so important for you? Why are you so passionate still about what you're doing when it comes to this whole field of biomedical medicine, functional medicine, dietitians, gurus, biohackers, all looking at symptoms? How can we get rid of symptoms, and how can we treat things, and what can we take for what? What is it that you're so passionate about when it comes to debunking that and looking at context?
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing for me is it's just, I've told my story so many times, so I won't, you know, bore your listeners with that. But
yeah, I think you should, because some might not have heard.
Okay, passion. I think it's more of a calling, because I've never had a mentor in this field at all. And the thing is this is all back before the internet, right? So you had to spend time in the library, and you had to get textbooks and use the Dewey Decimal System, the whole card catalog, you know, and hey, can I get this book? And so I spent a lot of time just going into the text of, you know, the masters, and people's work just really resonated with me. And it just made sense that all the body parts that we have, it's an orchestra. There's just a big symphony of things. And then when, you know, fast forward, you know, so I went in, I started, that was really deep for me back in 1994, 96. And that's when my whole thing started. But you know, what I found was then when the advent of the internet and when Facebook came along, I'd already been in practice for many, many years. And the thing was I just saw it explode into all these niches and people, you know, having more, just a flood, an avalanche of information. And so what that did is that now I had more patients coming in with questions from sources that I wasn't really you know, on top of. You know, I really just didn't get into everything that was going on the interwebs, so to speak. And so that kind of set me onto a path to where I had to really now spend a lot of time, not only in the continuing medical literature and things and studies that come out, as all physicians will tend to do when they have the time. We're just kind of geeky that way. At least me and my colleagues are. But the thing is then now you got all these, you know, bloggers and stuff that coming around, right? And then people just putting out information because they're motivated by it too, right? Which is great. So there's a lot of good information, and them bringing, you know, certain stuff to the market. So to take a little question with this long answer, the passion derives from just my course in life and how I believe that I've just been, you know, divinely inspired and called to do certain things. And, you know, you have to put time into it. I tend to stay away from myth busting or anything like that. My whole tagline is to educate, motivate, and inspire, right? And so I want people to realize that with the wisdom comes from realizing that you want to be able to entertain multiple, you know, disagreements at once and filter it through how you are a unique category of one individual, and then do everything, like you said, through the context that makes you uniquely you. You have a unique story, just like I basically shared on mine, and we're not all the same. We're not just lumbering idiots, you know, that came from some type of evolution. That's just, it's the silliest concept out there. You know, I see just a signature across people and nature that's amazing. And there's no way that just kind of, you know, accidentally evolved without some intelligent design. But then comes being a capitalist, right? And, you know, we all have a job, and we want to, you know, earn an income and provide for our family and give to the community and do fun stuff like that. And so my thing is to really make sure that people understand that they're the only person that they need to be. They need to be self-centered, not selfish, and go with your own story and translate things through. So learning a bunch of stuff is great, but the actual wisdom and knowledge that comes from applying it to you is different. And so for me, it really brings it around to, I felt that the market, if you will, needed that. And so I like to share.
The
Yes.
individuality.
Yeah. The concepts of that. You could talk about something being great, but then there's these contexts. Like in Europe, you have these different, even your size of your shoes are different than ours, right? So I'm a 9.5 over there. I think it's what, 42. I mean, right. We got these different things. But then again, but that's a shoe. But then a shoe for what? To go, are we talking about walking in the dirt? Are we talking about, going to a formal event? So there's different contexts of all these different things. And when it comes to, nutrition and healing, you have to translate it through the unique situation of the individual, as opposed to just telling people this is what you need for this. So that's where it came from. It's just this need, this iteration of going through and seeing patients' lives and realizing, they were asking questions, and that led me to bring what informations I bring and try to inspire people with. So that's how I would tell you about that.
And you've been someone who's been educating and training many of the people who are in the space right now. How many years of experience just for
well, so primarily that's what I do is I train other healthcare practitioners around the world. I have a preceptorship program where they train with me extensively for some time. And so I started lecturing to physicians from around the world back in 2005. So I was lecturing at medical conferences like A4M and AMMG and stuff like that on, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, nutrition's role in anti-aging and stuff like that, and stem cells and peptides and all that kind of stuff all the way back there, and, genetic influence, epigenetics. So yeah, that's a fun thing. So I have practitioners all over the globe that practice my method balance protocol. It's a clinical method and framework. But the thing is so I've been doing that realistically since 2005. And so that's the whole thing is you can only be one voice, right? So you have to force multiply, as we say, and have people do that. And then there's a bunch of people that are in the space. You can't, some I can name names, some I won't names. You could probably googly goo, because I've been on some podcasts. They don't mind sharing, but there's a lot of big folks out there that I've been their physician and helped them along their way. And then of course, that's what I call my intellectual grandkids. I really do enjoy that, because when I see them succeed and inspiring people and helping them along the way, that really, that's what I'm in it for, But yeah,
let's start there with the stem cells and the peptides and the epigenetics. When it comes to ADHD and autism, from 2005 to until now, what's changed, and is it relevant for moms to look into? Are there any dangers in it too?
Well, sure. Where that started for me, that's back in. So there's a big lab that I like to use, and I give them a little shout out. But there's a company called Genova Diagnostics. They do a lot of functional labs. They're known in the industry, and they're based out of my home state in Asheville, North Carolina. But the thing is so back in '94, they were called Great Smokies because they were in the Smoky Mountains of North Carolina. So that's when I started with them. And back then, this is pre-Human Genome Project release data, right? That was around 04 or 2 or 4, 5, something like that. And I'm getting old, right? Anyways, so the funny thing is so Great Smokies became Genova because it was genes. So they started doing SNPs. So I started looking at SNPs. But then I looked at SNPs, then they're vis-a-vis nutritional markers, biomarkers.
Yeah.
And I found out that it was nice to know the SNPs, so that way we can, when we're using pharmaceutical medications clinically, to know how you clear them, because there's usually a standard loading dose of certain things, but depending upon your cytochrome P450s, which are detailed by your SNPs, it's how you would use that medication, because we always only use just the lowest therapeutically, effective dose. But then I saw that certain people, like with, MTHFR is a big thing out there in the market, which has become a complete fraud. It's absolutely amazing. We can touch on that. But, COMT and SOD and all these different enzymes, CBS enzymes. So they had these SNPs, but yet we were able to overcome those epigenetic expressions through working from the markers that are the functional markers of those, right? So like, for instance, when it comes to B12 people and folate, well, that's the MTHFR SNP, but that SNP is just a static thing. I don't even like to use the term mutation. I actually had this conversation over lunch with the CEO of 23andMe, by the way, who she said, yeah, we don't like people using our data that way because that's really not what those mean. The science does not.
They even say that. That's interesting.
What from her mouth, but anyways. So the thing about it is they know it, we know it, but see, that doesn't sell. See, you want to get the market. As I watched, that's why I kind of shared that backstory. As I watched what the market produced, it will produce beautiful things, but some kind of ugly things too. And it's a lack of integrity. And then some people take it to a fraud level. And you know me, I name names because it's all my personal opinion. I'll tell you because I got skin in the game because I've been at the conferences and the round tables and the marketing recruitment. Anyways, I'm not part of that cabal. I don't know how controversial your audience wants to hear it, but I am definitely an insider. So the thing is that we look at biomarkers that are functional, like when you take a look at like B12, you want to look at methylmalonic acid. That's going to tell you how your body is using or not using B12, and you can do it in urine or blood. I prefer urine, but so that's a functional marker of B12. A MTHFR SNP is not a functional marker. No. It's like saying, hey, I'm from, North Carolina. You have a NASCAR in your garage, right? So you have a Chevy. But the thing is, that doesn't mean it runs, doesn't say, and then if everything runs, who's going to drive it? It's not just one great big left-hand turn real fast. There's a skill to it. There's a way to use it. And so I think what happens is they take these little pieces, the market, and that's where they really make people lose themselves because you hear about these things. But this is the one thing I always like to drive home, and I would love your audience to understand, is that they don't know you. They don't know what makes you uniquely you, your environment, your lifestyle, your mindset, your backstory, how you eat, previous trauma. There's just so many things that make you and all your cells of your body you. How can they just truncate it down to some random SNP that they're not even looking at how it's performing, just that it's there? But of course, they're going to say, hey, well, you need to take methylated folate. Right.
Disaster for so many people, like the autistics and the families that are undermethylated, completely horrible.
Correct. So then you see, so that's the context. So you could have someone in that case, but then the SNP would say, take this, but then their whole story negates that. See, that takes a clinical encounter. That takes you time to have somebody do the crime scene investigation. And that's it. So that's what's out there. But that's how I got to it. So my skin in the game is I was looking at SNPs decades ago, and they're really cool and they can be sexy. And you look at the pathways and the story, the narrative is really, really cool. But that doesn't tell you in reality how it's performing, right? And then there's other epigenetic things when it comes to your environment and your sleep pattern and your connection to the earth and how you breathe and how you hydrate and your circadian rhythm that changes all of those. I mean, if they want to get into SNPs, you got to look at BMAL and clock genes, and that's like the Lord of the genes. See, maybe I should take my there's a silly book out there called Dirty Genes, which tells the whole narrative of these genes, and it plays on the term of dirty genes. Genes aren't dirty, and tells people to buy these seeking health supplements based on your genes. Well, see, that's the fraud. That's the erroneousness of it. I should come up with a funny term and clean that up. But at the end of the day, that's it. And you see that in the autistic community because all too well. You've so many thousands of stories. Moms particularly just become desperate. And hope is a very dangerous thing. It's a beautiful thing. You got to have it or you won't move forward. I love the quest, for people to continue to find something. But you really want to get the context of your case and your capabilities, what you have available to your geographic stuff. It is a huge moving target, as you know all too well. It's highly complex. But we have tools and we can sort through those. But the litmus I like to teach people is the person making a recommendation for said strategy or tactic, or dare we say product, able to differentiate you from the product and everybody else? What is the inclusionary and the exclusionary criteria? We do it for drugs, like penicillin. Think of all the millions of lives that's changed here historically, but there are some people who are allergic to penicillin. So then therefore you now have an exclusionary criteria, and it's not because of some gene snip either.
Exactly.
So that has to be the same thing of everything, right? And the answer isn't in the pills, potions, and powders, though those are helpful. So that's what I would say when it comes to that. Epigenetics is a real concept for sure, but how are you going to wield it? How does it apply to you? You got to get information on how it applies. Anybody who tells you something needs to tell you what to look for. And then if you take something for something, that's where you lose your soul.
Yeah.
There's no exchange. No one has autism because they have a zeolite deficiency, a TRS drop deficiency.
Well, let's go there, because TRS, and I've seen this tendency the past probably 10 years. It wasn't a thing when we started out in 2004 with my son, who no longer has any autism symptoms. But MLM companies are huge now in the autism community. So we have these huge companies with a lot of people depending on making money and leaning up against these scientists. There's always a scientist, this amazing doctor that no one has been listening to until now, that you've never heard of. And so it's always been a bit risky, in my opinion, but I would love to use the TRS company structure and model and product as an example to dig into that a little bit from your perspective.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. See, that's the whole thing. This is why I said earlier, listen, we all have a field, right? When I have 3 daughters, 2 of them still, live with me. They're 10 and 7. And, we have kids, and, I'm just kind of playing on how our brains are going. We're like, we always, we want them to marry a doctor or an attorney. I'm not raising mine like that, but anyway. But why is that? Why do we know that colloquialism, if you will? It's because we want people to have a certain living and a lifestyle that can be afforded by a certain income. Okay, so there's certain stability in there. It doesn't make things purpose, because I know people that are ultra wealthy around the world are just miserable. But anyway, the key here is to understand that we want to make an income and a living and stuff. We can't do everything all pro bono. Okay, I have a pro bono thing that I do for United States Military Special Forces, so that's my philanthropy. But at the end of the day, though, we don't fault anybody for wanting to sell something. We're all selling something. Okay, and got to be
that's no problem.
That's no problem.
I agree.
But then what goes wrong is then the scruples, if you will. What is really the character and the moral integrity. Well, I can tell you, I've been around a long time, right, in all this stuff, and I've dabbled early on into the MLM stuff, all the way, back with my dad was one of the original guys with Amway back in San Francisco back in the day, and he was like a double diamond. Of course, he lost that in the divorce to his first wife, but that's another story. But so I've been all that, right? And it's Shackley and USANA and all these different things. So I've played with a lot of them. They're all bogus. They put the least pure and cheap stuff in stuff, and they sell the idea. You see that going on now with LifeWave patches, which are a complete fraud. That's massive. You also see that.
What's that company called? Because
LifeWave, the X39 patch that you put it on there, and they're saying their patches are photobiomodulation. Okay. And their whole thing is it, the body's infrared bounces off of the little patch. It's a little round patch about the size of a Cured, Band-Aid, and it bounces the light back into your body and stimulates a copper peptide. It's amazing. I mean, it's a sexy as story, but it's a lie. I can't wait, because I've taken the patches. I've actually sent them off to the lab. So I'm going to tell people what chemicals are in the plastics anyways. Because you're putting in that transdermal, because I'm always going to test it myself. It costs me tens of thousands of dollars to do what I do, but that's why I come from a place of knowledge. I put the money in. So anyways, you got those being sold out there. You've got, all kinds of things now. And I can share with you, I have a product line, so don't get me wrong. I'm not being duplicitous, but the multi-level marketing is amazing. Like Unicity, So what they're doing is now is Unicity is massive. They have great branding, great messaging, and they're basically selling this dietary fiber that's overly expensive. You know, for $200 or $300, you can take these little fiber packets and it loses weight and your cholesterol and all that kind of stuff. Well, it can, but who says you got to buy $300, you know, psyllium husk powder and guar gum and arabinogalactans and stuff like that to do it? You don't, right? But okay, is it harming people? I don't think so, but I'm not the savior of the world to protect people from harm. It's, you know, buyer beware. But the narrative is brilliant. It's like you're like, listen, I'm sitting there drinking with a, you know, Darth Vader coffee mug. I love Star Wars, but I know it's not in reality. But there's so many stories. It's a wonderful place to retreat to, and all the wonderful dopamine hits of the story and the backstory, like, you know, Ahsoka's on now. I've always loved her because she was the Padawan for Anakin Skywalker. Anyway, but you could do that with any herb. You could do it with every mineral. Everybody talks about how wonderful magnesium is. Yeah, so is molybdenum. So is nickel. So is boron. They're all lovely and delicious, as I say. But these companies, that's what they do. So steer clear, carte blanche, away from any multi-level marketing company. And of course, they don't use the term anymore. You know, they call it, you know, networking. Yeah. You know, and it's not a pyramid, it's a whatever.
Yeah. So but what's the deal with TRS though? And you know, because it's huge.
Well, that's a perfect example. So it's a zeolite, and I love zeolite. It's a fantastic thing. Okay. So is bentonite clay. Okay. So is charcoal. There's all kinds of things that do things. So you take one thing and say that it does this, like a NASCAR, like I was talking about, it goes real fast around a track, okay? But that doesn't mean you can do it on the highways, okay? The context is zeolites. What's cool about them is they actually leave the intestines and they can go into the bloodstream. They're small enough if sourced right, okay? Other things can't, other binders, if you will, okay? Because there's mechanical binders, there's physical binders, there's chemical binders, there's different binders, okay? You can just take a binder, okay? So like, you know, the thing with like TRS, it's a dose is really the whole bottle. In other words, to get any real effective mechanisms that we can attribute to zeolites, it's dose dependent. It's the reason why don't you take 10 milligrams, you know, of aspirin? Well, because it doesn't work. Why don't you take 100? Because it'll make your tummy bleed. So it's funny that it's 88 milligrams. What a weird ass number. Well, that see the point? It's dose dependent. Okay. Yeah. It's like an ounce of water is not going to hydrate you, but proper water will hydrate you. So the problem with the drops, now here's the thing, this is the trickiness of it. But if you take a couple of drops and you put it in a kid and their situation is so dire that just a little bit of removal can move the symptoms, that's why people go, well, oh, it worked for me. Okay, great. I'm not denying anyone's experience. If you say that, that's fine. I'm even okay if it's placebo.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's like prayer. It's not like God's going to come down and make sure you win the ball game. Okay, it's if you pray or meditate and you focus, you know, it's like pulling in the power and then you perform better. So the power of prayer works. So the power of placebo works. So I'm not concerned about that. But the reality is, okay, what you don't hear are the failures. What you don't hear, that you only talk to clinicians like, oh my God, I went through bottles and bottles and bottles and it didn't move nothing. It didn't do anything. Well, because
and what about the ones where, because I hear from them as well, who really got sick from it.
Absolutely. So then that's the next context. Okay, because it's like cancer. Okay, there's no such thing as cancer. There's cancers, plural. Okay. You know, a squamous cell carcinoma is not the same thing as a teratoma. A teratoma is an amazing cancer. I mean, we'll open up the abdomen and there's a tooth there. It literally is a cancer cell that will grow another body part in another body, like literally hair and teeth. Look, you'll see. That's not the same thing as, you know, a lymphoma or something, right? So cancer, we got to be careful about the terms we use, right? So the same thing with parasites, maybe we can get into that. But the thing is so there's different context. So the thing about it is if you take a binder, well, you're assuming, and a lot of times, that your body can now deal with the removal of it. So like with cancer, you start killing off cancer cells. Well, what cancer cells in what organ, and what's their journey for removal? So if it's the dead body of the cancer cell that is the biggest problem, not the cancer cell itself, the toxicity of it, right? It's like when a natural disaster happens and all the bodies start to swell and pop and get nasty. I don't know how gross you want to get on your podcast, but dealing with the death is the difficult thing. Now, so yeah, you start putting stuff into a body and want it to be removed, well, you're assuming a lot of things from the body, that it has the ability and the capacity and the nutrients to be able to shuttle things out. Because remember, if you think about it, there's a bunch of cells packed in together. How do they get out of this cell and then get to your urine or your stools? Well, it's like the fireman, Buck Fire Brigade. This cell, it has to leave this cell, go through the phospholipid membrane, the in-between space, then it has to go through another membrane, and it has to be given and given and given and given and given. It has to be, it's like the Matrix, that one where you got the key keeper guy and they're running through that long building and he's fumbling for the keys. I got to go through this door and then I got to go through that door. That's what toxins are.
Yeah.
And so that takes a lot of energy. Where's the body's innate ability to remove these things? So if you put something in, a molecule that's a small molecule, a construct of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, like something from a botanical, okay, it gets delivered, it gets put into the blood, and then the blood delivers to the cells, and the cells all hand it off, and it gives then it goes from the cells to the tissue. Well, then now that causes a reaction. The body goes, oh, well, let's get rid of those things and hand it back off. It's a tremendous amount of cellular energy. Weakened people, ill people, particularly kids, it's always accentuated. The good and the bad and the ugly is always accentuated in kids. That's why we use rats in the labs, because it happens fast and they're young. Okay. So the thing is that's the problem. So you can take things and you can cause these Herxheimer reactions, these cleansing reactions. You can make a person weak because you presumed, dare I say assumed, that they were strong enough to deal with the die-off and the cleaning. They're not.
And that's why, so then they're told, oh, this is just a detox symptom. This means that it's working. So it's actually the same thing as with the heavy chelations that has actually damaged people's brains, where you're just recirculating toxins. So
that's what I do. Well, think for a second. Where do we keep going when it's a bad thing? I'll give you an example. So I don't like to use pesticides around my house. So in Florida, we grow weeds like a champ. So I got these rock beds of gardens around my screen enclosure. And of course I live on the lake, so seeds jump in there and then they grow and they sprout. Well, I'm not going to go in there and constantly spray, pesticides. The vinegar and salt and cleaning soda doesn't always, kill them off. So I use a torch. I literally have a great big old propane tank and I put on a little roller and I got this big torch and I go through and I burn them. Okay, so that's how I get rid of my weed.
Yeah.
So here I'm doing this to get rid of these weeds, removing the toxins. And I'll tell you what happened is I had this big patch, so I kind of let it get a little too far, and I hit the torch up too much, and I roasted my screen enclosure. So at the cost of killing the weeds, I didn't burn a hole in it. Okay, I caught it, but it started smoking. I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. Maybe it was just water evaporating from it. It wasn't it. And so then later, when it all cooled down, it had like this ring around it, like a coffee ring on a table wax. And I pushed it with my finger and it went right through it. So the analogy I'm using is what I was doing with good intent to burn off these weeds came at a cost. And now I have to take that big old screen off and I have to replace it. Not a big deal. It's a screen. It cost me, $60 worth of screen material from Lowe's. But, the thing is that's the analogy that I would use when it comes to it. There's people who have good faith in something doing it, but you're not prepared for the consequences. And then now what you have to do afterwards, you see, and it causes these reactions. But what I didn't do, here's the moral of the story, I didn't keep going near that area. When you have a healing crisis, dare we say, or an adverse reaction, that's your body saying either slow, no, or whoa is what I say. Okay, Stop. It's not like the fraud guy, Pompa, who tells people to drink their pee. Push through the pain. Well, that ain't your life. That just never works. Wherever in life, give me one example of when you have pain, you keep going.
No.
People go, well, bodybuilding. Okay, well, then that's why you have injuries and separated biceps and all kinds of stuff. So my point is when your body's doing that, that's its divine intelligence say you're doing too much. Yeah. Honey, love you, but it's too much for me. So you don't keep going.
No.
And that's the problem with a lot of these companies. They don't know how to differentiate who should or shouldn't do the product or the treatment. And they don't teach you how to differentiate you. Yeah. I always tell people, if you have an adverse reaction, you need to stop and nourish. That's why Balanced Protocol has 3 phases. We call it nourish, balance, purify. We never purify first. You got to build.
No, we never do that either. You can actually tell a good practitioner from a bad practitioner. Just run away from anybody who starts with anything called detoxification.
That's 100% right. I don't care if it's parasites, heavy metal, mycotoxins, mold, Lyme, whatever. You better be ready. When we remodel a house, we don't just start tearing it out. You have to go, okay, where are we going to put it? So you order the garbage can to be out in front, and then you put your tarps down, and then you get ready for it. There's an order of operations. That's one of the biggest issues that I have to spend time with patients is they're excited about the power of the TRS. They're excited about the power, of the castor oil, their power of the cannabis. There's all kinds of wonderful molecules. But hold on a minute. Are you ready for it? I mean, in surgery, we have to prep the area. I mean, it only makes sense, but people get excited. They're in the now business, right?
Yeah.
Doc, what can you give me for this?
We want to talk about parasites, and we want to talk about some exciting inventions that you've been working on for a long time, that will give us an opportunity to remineralize and detox in a safe way. And I want you to talk about the different components in that product, and we also want to get people access to that product. Full disclosure, this is a recommendation, and I'm going to recommend this product because I've been waiting for something like this for years. But before we dive into that and you show it and we talk about that, can you share a little bit about the parasite cleanse? Because it's like there's 2 schools. It's either, hey, it's not a problem. A healthy immune system will be able to deal with the parasites that we have. It's actually a good thing. It strengthens the immune system. Or you got to combat parasites, and do people do it in a way that it actually works? Right. What works for cleansing out parasites?
Well, the thing is, the first thing is avoidance. Reducing exposure. Okay. Well, listen, and I love animals, man. I love animals. But ever since I lost my service dog Primus, I don't have them anymore. Okay. But I get it. We call them members of the family. Well, I can tell you that's one of the big areas. Okay. Because dogs, cats, birds, farm animals, they live in a different ecosystem. We all know how we use toilet paper. They don't. So we know what happens. And then they come and they give us, the loves when we get home. Okay. You see what I'm picking up there, right? So they clean with their mouths, okay? And so they're going to get it. Okay. So that can happen. The foods that we eat, we're living in this amazing world, both plants and animals. So there are sources of them. So that's the first thing, okay, is how do we, reduce exposure? See, reduce. But even though you don't know, so they're ubiquitous, they're everywhere. It's a very common thing. But then again, the term parasites is just like I said, it's the same thing like automobile. It's like shoe. It's like cancer. There's all kinds of different parasites. They're divided into different categories. Okay.
So I've got a dog. I then have, for sure, I will have parasites then.
I wouldn't say for sure, because I just don't like to talk in absolute terms, but it's highly probable. And I think seasonal parasitic protocols are wise.
Yeah. So talk us through that, because I know that everyone.
Well, again, we got pharmaceuticals and we have nutraceuticals or botanicals. And again, just like in therapeutic agents, just like in antibiotics, not all antibiotics kill all bacteria. Okay, we have to know what it's sensitive to. When I do a stool sample on a patient and it comes back because they're having GI things, and I see, okay, we see Klebsiella in there, or we see Enterococcus fecalis, or we see a Citrobacter. Well, I test them against the different therapeutic agents, the botanicals and the pharmaceuticals, and we make a decision on which agent we use that will effectively do it. Oftentimes, they have multiple bacteria. in there, and one medication will be effective for one but not the other. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take the one that's effective for both, not just the one.
Yeah.
Herbs are the same way. Listen, I love some black walnut and some artemisia and some clove and some tansy and all the wonderful botanicals that have been in ancient healing of the love and the planet. They're lovely herbs. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I'm a tree hugger from way back. I love to kick up the dirt. Okay. It's a great way to diversify the microbiome. But here's the deal. They don't get them everywhere. Okay. Parasites in the intestines is what most people are familiar with. But you have parasites in your brain, your eye, your liver, your pancreas, your lymphatics. They can be all kinds of places. Don't think that a few little drops of a Paragard or something like that is going to get all parasites. You see? So I started the education part first. So you can't just do a parasite cleanse. Then, remember back what I was just saying earlier? The die-off. They don't go easy. And they are built, they're parasites. Right? They live off the host. They are a foreign species. Okay. That's why fetuses are not parasites, by the way, because they're the species. But anyways, don't get me started on that one. But my point is that they're living on, they come with certain mechanisms that preserve their squatters' rights. Okay. So you got to get them in different stages. So that requires different molecules. So this end all to begin all parasite cleanse type things of this bottle or these powders ain't going to cut it. It's not. So again, and I know that's not the answer people want because they want something they can do to avoid the doctors. And I don't blame them. Okay. Because I say hospitals are where people go to die. Okay. But anyways, so it's a lot of problem, but there are pharmaceutical medications that can get certain parasites in other tissues. So and that's hard to find if they're there or not. So an advanced thing, I use pharmaceutical medications after and congruent with botanicals if we're trying to do a whole body go after them. But we're going to use, nitazoxanolide. I'm going to use praziquantel. I'm going to use, mebendazole. There's some great pharmaceuticals. But the thing is for parasites, see, that's that term. See, we have to say, well, what parasite? Are we talking about a liver fluke? A tapeworm? Are we talking about Giardia? Are we talking about blastocystis? They're not all sensitive to the same things. So there is no one cleanse.
No.
Okay.
So would we be able to do like a group parasite cleanse where people would send in tests for you and you would then take them through that, or what?
Well, no. And here's the reason why. We could do an intestinal one, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not for the rest of the body.
But not the rest of the body. So we just have to be clear on that. And that's fine. It's like, okay, honey, we're gonna clean out the garage today. The next thing is we're gonna go for your closet. Then we're gonna get the kids' closet. There's different ones that require different things. So unfortunately, that's the group things is cool, particularly if you don't have any other existing symptoms, you're pretty much, relatively stable, but you want to do that seasonal thing. Yes. So I'm all for those kind of things, and they can be a lot of fun, right? Because you share the pictures and, ooh, look what came out of me. I like all the gross stuff. It's a lot of fun. So yes. So in the context of that, sure, there's a right way and a wrong way. But again, you could take a relatively healthy, asymptomatic individual, start doing a thing, and you might have some cleansing reactions. Right. And so you got to be able to deal with those. That's why you can't just say, hey, buy this product, it does this. So I'm a big facilitator of transportation into cells and transportation out, and then making sure things leave the body in an efficient way and don't get reuptaken. Okay. Okay. If you're moving your bowels once a day or even twice a day, that doesn't tell you your bowel transit time. You don't know when that stool was made. Was it yesterday or was it last week? So even though you might move in your bowels, that's not a pure indicator. You have to do a bowel transit time test. We use charcoal to do that. But so we want to find out how efficiently things are leaving the body. You need to know that data before you dump off dead entities into there that need to be tagged and bagged for removal, because if they don't, they stay in there. Okay. And their dead bodies might have not dead eggs in them. And you don't want those eggs to hatch from the dead host. You see what I mean? So you can kill a worm, but what if it's got eggs inside? And then
how does that work?
Didn't leave. You see?
So you don't do, that's what I figure. You don't do just specifically parasite cleanses, you would do the whole context, the whole balance protocol when people come to you.
Yes, that's what I typically do clinically. Why? Because I want to win. I stack the deck in my favor. It's called the rule of rigor. Do it right the first time, even though it's not quick and easy and inexpensive, because let's win. Let's do it so you don't have the downsides of it. And I know it's complicated and it's convoluted and complex, but it works better. You see?
That makes sense.
That's the cool thing about parasites. They're real, they're omnipotent. People should address them. It's valid, but it's not one simple take a couple of drops of some stuff and some, zeola or some diatomaceous earth and it kills them all. I'm sorry, but wouldn't that be great? I would just love that.
That would be awesome. Well, let's look at what it is that you've invented and why, because I'm assuming that what you came up with, the drops that you came up with, are drops that we can start using. And tell us about them and tell us what's in them and why and for what we use them.
Well, now that I've shared my shtick, I call it my propaganda. Okay, well, Beck, what's your rhetoric? Okay. I want things that work, but within relative of what they do. Okay. So because I don't want to seem duplicitous. I was talking about and being very critical of certain things, put the same microscope on mine, because I want to bring to the market things that patients can use as true utilities. Okay. To do a function that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. Okay. Like for instance, I won't bring to the market ground up, freeze-dried berry powder like Gundry did. Okay, charge you $50. Okay.
He did?
Oh God, oh my God. You haven't seen his magical, blueberry, polyphenol, powder.
Yeah, but there's Roundup in those, or?
Well, I mean, it could. I haven't tested it, but my point is this: don't buy a jar of dehydrated berries. Go eat the damn berries.
Yeah. See your point.
So that's my thing. In other words, foods eat as foods. Things that you can't get as a food, that's where you can add to, or dare we say, supplement. You see what I'm saying? All right. So that's the key here. I've developed, and I've been doing this for a long time. I've had my nutraceutical company since 2005, but it's only been direct to my patients or through the health practitioners that I cover. Why? Because they're therapeutic agents that do a clinical job. Make sense? Not just, here, buy my, vitamin D. Okay. So I'm not against that. It's like I said, I'm a capitalist. But at the end of the day, I want things that work for a specific reason that patients can't otherwise do it. Now, so when I look to the market, there are very powerful molecules such as fulvic acid, humic acid. Okay. Those two things have been known across the sands of time to be amazing. Certain biodynamic farmers and people that are smart enough, if you keep putting plants into the soil, that soil has nutrients that goes into the plant. You remove the plant, it's no longer in the soil. That's physics. You can only grow so many things in the same dirt. And the content, particularly of the minerals, because what are plants taking up from the soil? Minerals. That's what builds them. The nitrogen, the carbon, the oxygen, that's all in the air. Okay. So carbohydrates, they're carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Fats, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Proteins, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Plus or minus phosphorus, nitrogen. You see what I'm saying? So it's all the same stuff on the periodic table. But the question is how do plants get access to the rocks that are in the soil? Well, you have to have the microbes and the fungus and the bacteria in the soil, that mycelium layer of fungus. Fungus is absolutely mind-blowing to me. I am so fascinated by what it can do. So you have the rocks, the minerals, microbes digest those, put it into a form that plants' roots can uptake through water. And then now it combines with sunlight and air, and then we have magical things. That's why animals that we tend to eat, like, lovely and delicious livestock, eat those plants. Okay. And then it turns into them. So anyway, so there's this cycle. So having said that, there's fulvic and humic acids on the market. It's been out there for a long time, but the downside is this: now the market comes in because they're not cheap. Okay. And you can get them from different things. Okay. So you can get fulvic acid from a lot of different companies, but the problem is that they are in plastic. Never, ever consume a product like that is in any type of plastic, because it's just the silliest thing. It's a chemical reaction. Okay. The plastics will leach a variety of different things. So that's the first thing. But then they're watered down. So you might get a product that, has it in there, but well, how much? So there's that issue. Okay. So, but I want the power of fulvic and humic acids. Fulvic is a low molecular weight molecule that's in the soil. It's called humate. Of course, over in Scotland, they have peat bogs. That's a humate. That's loaded with minerals and stuff. Of course, they smoke it, and anyway, it's a different story. So there's people are used to there's places there are people there. Coals, Leonardite. There's different places where there was plants from ancient time, okay, that died and composed, had the microbes make them into this substance, these humates. So humic acid is interesting because they're both an acid, but it dissolves in an alkaline environment. Fulvics are in an acid environment. So humics contain fulvic, so they're in together. But here's the problem. It's not accessible by the human's GI. Okay, you can't just go and eat a bunch of dirt. The anecdotal stories of pregnant women going out in the yard and eating dirt because the body was craving it. But anyways, I've actually seen that in my time. But my point is that those are a great source of the minerals, because minerals move the molecules. The body does everything based upon minerals. Every gene SNP, every hormone, they're all regulated by minerals. You've probably always heard people, well, magnesium is responsible for over 300 enzymatic. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. But magnesium ain't the coolest on the block. Okay. Don't forget about copper, zinc, molybdenum, manganese. They're all amazing things. So anyways, you need all of them. There's 60 of them that we need every single day. And the days that you don't have it, you start working towards deficiency. Okay. See, so 60.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So the thing is at the end of the day, I like to have patients increase their source of those, because the food that we eat doesn't have it. No. That's known. It makes sense. It's common sense. I don't care if you get it from, an organic farmer or whatever, you grow it yourself. Okay, great. Not all of us do that. So then that's where you supplement. Remember, supplements are supplemental to foundational things, not the things. They don't replace them. You can't just take pills, potions, and powders and not eat. Okay. It's just like, you can pray, but you have to work. You got to do it. So that's what it is. So my thing was I was like, okay, well, how do I get a source of that? Now, when you go to the market to find sources of these things, as a manufacturer, as a formulator, you're met with different levels of scruples. Well, we have this from this, and it costs this. We have this, and you have to make a decision. Okay. We all know there's a difference in quality and sourcing. There's a big difference. Okay. And so that market meets the mind. And then these companies have to take a look at the numbers. Well, the way I'm wired has always been, I only want the highest quality. Now, people are going to say high quality too. So we use the same vernacular. But my thing is, but are you willing to test it, to verify it, and put it up where people can freaking see it? Are you transparent? I am. That's the big difference. So I want to teach people what to look for. If you have a product that doesn't show you the results of their lab and their testing and their surety of what it has and what it doesn't have, then move on.
Yeah, because you've been testing one of the components, the so-called trace minerals that you've tested, ionic minerals, quinton, all these different products. That's right. Not all that you have compiled into yours, but apparently it's not all.
It's not all there. It falls short. Like, for instance, like quinton, okay, sea minerals. Now they get those from the sea, okay, not deep underground sea, and there's a difference. Okay, like I'll tell you, so in the product that I put together for my patients, it combines fulvic acid, humic acid, shilajit, and 2 sources of deep underground sea minerals. Why that matters? Like, for instance, I get them from Zechstein. It's right over there near you, right? Okay. Over there in the Netherlands, that miles down, there's a source of deep sea underground minerals, primarily of magnesium, right? It's a high rich source of that, but there's boron and all kinds of stuff, right? So that's where I get it from. I'm going to tell you that straight up. Okay. So the cool thing is that has its benefits, but here's what's missing. It has no fulvic. It has no humic.
And why does that need to be in there?
Because it's a delivery system. Okay. It's just like, sure, you know, as a single parent, you can raise the kid, but is it ideal? Right. You know, it's just kind of, you know, it's like with anything. Okay. There's an ideal situation, and then there's a getting by situation. It's like, for instance, people, because there's this sweet lady out there, you might have heard of Barbara O'Neill, you know, from Australia. She's really, really blowing up. Sweet lady. She's, you know, and anyways, so Celtic sea salt has become a really big thing as of late. And she says, so you take one little crystal and you put it in your tongue and you drink it with water. And the magnesium in it is a water-loving molecule. And it takes that water with that magnesium in it, and it goes into the cell. That's the story. See how sexy and lovely it was, especially if you said it in an Australian accent from a little lady with gray long hair? True. But here's the context. It's so, you might as well go and just lick a rock. You can't just put a crystal. That, how in the halibut is that going to be enough? It's not. But everything that was just said is absolutely true. But the context,
and what about the Shilajit, which I pronounce wrong, I'm sure.
Shilajit, same thing, right? So with Shilajit, you know, the destroyer of weakness in Ayurveda, totally true. Okay. I love the substance, but I know its shortcomings. Now, the reason why it's black, okay, in some cases brown, is because all those things are bound up in carbon. Remember, carbon's a binder. That's why we take charcoal, right? We take charcoal in the intestines as a binder. Well, charcoal binds things, and it binds those minerals. So you can take Shilajit and you can dissolve it in water, but the minerals are still bound to the copper, and you're not going to get it. You'll get some. I'm not saying you don't get any, because listen, so many people will say, I took Shilajit and oh my God, it was amazing for me. Totally true. Don't exaggerate that. But what if we could free that up? And I've developed a process to do that. So I do love the complexness of Shilajit. It has some fulvic in it. It has some humic in it. It has some minerals, but it's not enough. And then it's dependent upon where you get it. There's the dried stuff, you know, it's a little like rock, and it's brown, and it's powder, and it grows. It grows. It was produced in all kinds of places. It's in, you know, right? There's Shilajit everywhere. But again, what's in it? Some of these companies, just like Himalayan pink salt, well, sea salt. Remember, all salt is sea salt. It was all a sea at some time. Okay.
Yeah.
The Himalayas don't have a sea. Because everybody wanted to know your geography. I don't care if you're round or flatter. There's no sea. Okay. So, but there's just these big bulldozers, and they just grind it out. It's just like down in America, down in Louisiana, there's this big old salt mine. That's where Morton gets its from. Okay. So just because it's there doesn't mean it has things in it or things not in it. Okay. So you have to think about that, not just what's in it, but what's also in it that we don't desire, and then what's also missing. So Shilajit is a powerful thing, but it has shortcomings in my clinical experience and some downsides. The lower level, the altitude stuff where they can grab it real cheap and easy and just grind it and put it in powder and sell it for crops. That's primarily what it was, which is marvelous because we're replacing it so the plants can get it. Congratulations. But then they went, I wonder if we could put it in bags and sell it in bulk. I wonder if we could put it in capsules and sell it to people. And the father of fraud, Dave Asprey, he's even, you know, taken stuff like that, you know, his whole new coffee, he sold the Bulletproof now. So put that in your coffee. So now we're putting in the coffee. So there's these brilliant marketing things. Okay. But the issue is that they're not telling you the context of where it came from, what's in it, what's not in it. That's what I want to teach. So teach the litmus and then let people choose. So Shilajit is a great thing. Okay. But it doesn't have everything. Just like the deep sea minerals, just like Quinton, okay? Great mineral source, but it has a very sexy delivery, right? The little glass ampules and stuff. And see, remember, there's always a marketing to things, which I'm not opposed to. I do it too. But at the end of the day, you got to think about what it is in the context, and then how much, and then its density, okay? So there's that. So all of those things are wonderful. And I years ago, I came out with a product called Oral IV, which was big on the market, but, you know, that company wasn't able to continue due to, you know, business partners who ran it into the ground.
Which was like a hydration supplement.
It was a hydration product, which was phenomenal. It was really great. But I built it with a certain technology that I developed. So I have the ability to enhance the way that minerals behave and are taken up by the body by using, you know, an electrical current, a light frequency, a sound frequency, and movement. So it's a field. It changes the nature of it. Just like you can, there's a balloon, but if you rub it on your head and you get static on it, it'll stick to the wall. Okay, so we can use charge to change things.
And is that what you've been using in this product?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. So that's built in, but I try not to tout that. It's on the bottle and talk about it. But I don't want to get woo-woo, or I don't want to sound duplicitous, but because I want to have the integrity to let people know that's it. So I wanted to bring something that is for everyone, every man, woman, and child, and even our pets, birds, dogs, cats, all of them, a way to put in these molecules that bring nutrients into the cells and help facilitate out the cellular byproduct waste, because that requires the energy. But then also, hey, how about we give these minerals and these molecules that you're not eating? Like I love purple dulse, and I love kelp, and I love spirulina and chlorella, all these kind of things. I love wheatgrass, barley grass, alfalfa grass. I love bee pollen, right? See those, but who's going to go and eat a pound of alfalfa?
Yeah.
Who's going to go and get some, some purple dulse or some kelp? Well, certain cultures do. But so those in supplements, I think they're fabulous. Okay. So if you can eat it, eat it. If you can't, but you want its nutrient density, supplement that. There you go.
How did you do that? So what's in your
so I'll show it here, because I put it in everything. You're like today, I was like, oh man, I got to put it in my coffee. So this is it. This is my little, we just launched this to the market, FHSMX, and that's what it stands for: fulvic, humic, shilajit, and deep marine mineral complex. So it's called a cellular balancing complex. And it takes years to make, right? Because like, for instance,
we will link to it. So when you go to the episode, listen to this podcast to the end, and I'll tell you how to get hold of it. So yeah.
But so that's it. So the reason why I did a product, because products work, supplements work, they're available, but you can't get this in nature. There's no way to do it. So I had to put it together so people can have it. So this is a foundational thing and don't get me wrong, recently, I've improved it by adding the shilajit sources and another deep sea mineral from North America. But I've been using my fulvic and humic and stuff for years with patients. So I'm now putting on. So don't think this is like a new thing. But the cool thing about this is there's 300 servings in the bottle. This is a 3-month supply.
Wow.
It's just because I wanted it, I want things to be also affordable over time for people. But I'm going to shock some folks, because I want to turn this into a commercial, but I'll give you an example. Okay. So these are the drops. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Right now, it has a pH of 1. You put this on a pH scale, like the little papers won't register. Because I do it in the lab, because it's a 1. People go, oh my God, it's acid. Now, if you put this on metal and leave it there for a period of time, yes, even stainless steel. But people say, oh my God, you're going to put it in the body? Well, hold on a minute. I don't recommend you drop it straight to your mouth, even though you could, and just for dog and pony. Okay. But it's extremely mineral.
Yeah.
Okay. But put it in some beverage that you want.
Yeah. So when you filter your water, you can add it into the water as well.
Yeah. So I recommend at least 2 ounces of water. Boom, shoot it. When you put three drops, and it's 1 drop per kilogram, 25 pounds. So what is that? Kilograms divided by 2, whatever. You Europeans can't do it quick. So anyways, the thing is that what happens is when you put it in 2 ounces of water, it raises the pH to 3. And one of the cool things about that is, so now you put it in the stomach and you don't have a chemical irritant. You don't have that pH reaction that you would if it was something super alkaline. Like humates are alkaline, and they can make people's stomach just kind of or just straight acid too much. So there's a thing. So that's it. It's absolutely marvelous. I have the test results right there on the product on the website, right? It's helionproducts.com, HELION products.com. And we do ship internationally. But here's the thing. I want people to see what's in it. It's amazing. And so one of the things I do, and you'll see a very similar lab report to this. So this is the lab report for Celtic sea salt. Okay. Ooh. Okay. So it shows every mineral that's in here, right? What's in it, what's not in it. And just for kicks and grins, like magnesium is 0.499 grams per 100 grams. So if you take 100 grams of salt Well, number one, your bowels will go, that you're going to go. Okay, because we do salt flushes. Don't get me wrong. As a matter of fact, if you want to do a salt purge as part of a parasite cleanse, use some Celtic sea salt, you know, from Selena naturally. Okay, commercial.
Yeah.
0.499 grams per 100 grams. Okay. In FHSMX, it's 14,000 in magnesium.
But send me all those links so that I can, in this episode description, I can link to all those tests and your tests and how to buy this product as well. Yep. That's just absolutely awesome. It's a question I get all the time. How do we remineralize, detox, and
that's where you start with. But again, it doesn't replace getting an earthing connection, breathing properly, getting sunlight, rest, making love, prayer. You see what I mean? So I don't want anybody to think that it's just the end all to begin all. It's the cat's meow, but the bee's knees. But I want people to understand you got to bridge the gap. Okay. And start low and slow. You know, I say 3 drops 3 times a day, each meal. And that's how you're doing it. What you're doing is this is an artificial way. I'm saying artificial. If these were actually in the food that you were eating, that's it. It's a food item essentially. So I want to bridge the gap. I don't want to sound multi-level marketing like, oh my God, and weight loss and you know. But listen, what are the possible downstream benefits? Well, lovely skin. Okay, energy, hormones are going to work more efficiently. It supports every system of the body in its principle. You see what I mean? Some people are like, well, it didn't make my hair grow. Other people, oh my gosh, my eyebrows started coming back in. It's weird. So what I don't do is overstate.
I cannot wait. This is so cool. It is
cool because it's truly, because you know, moms in particular, but families, we want resources, and that's what I'm bringing to the market. There's other things. I want to be full disclosure. I have a product line. I'm bringing them out as we go to the public. Remember, I was in for the last 15 years. But the big message is echoing what you do. Like in the content that you share with your audience is profound. That's the solid stuff. You got to learn some cooking skills. You got to learn some gardening skills, and it's everything. But be careful. My big thing also let people know is don't develop a mental illness of needing to biohack and buy all the gadgets and the gizmos and the pendants and the cases, and that's you don't need all that stuff. Yes, my office here, I'm in my studio in my home, and this is all wired connection. I have no Wi-Fi. This is all here. Yes, all my lights are halogen. Okay. Yes, I don't have all that fun stuff, right? So do what you can, but the basics, right? Of air.
So halogen is better than LED is what you're saying.
Well, yes. Now, are LEDs killing people? No, but they're not ideal. Remember, it's like, for instance, like this is a coffee mug. It's delivering my lovely, burnt Arabica bean infusion.
So there are 2 things I want to talk to you about before we say goodbye for today.
Okay,
and I just want to say that when I fall in love with the product, I think, well, because this is what I want people to know, that you are so thorough with your science and your research that's why I trust you so much. So if I fall in love with the product, I always think, do I dare run this by Dr. Anthony G. Beck? Because if he says it doesn't work, I'm not going to have it.
And I want to be honest, I'm always going to tell you, I'm not always going to, I'm highly critical. I'm known for it. Right.
And I love that. And it's, you're getting some beatings for that as well, but I really respect that. But tell me 2 things. One, which I love your tip for the best probiotic that you can make at home by going to the grocery store. So will you share that tip with us?
Yeah, well, let me go before I do that. I'm going to also say, because see, nature has the answers. Like the seas microbiome is almost identical to humans. So getting in the ocean if you can, regardless of the temperature. Get it in all your orifices. Okay, so there's that. Number 2, out in nature and kick up the dust. There's all kinds of microbes there. Now, here's what's cool. Plants. So the one thing that I like to do is my go-to is the cruciferous vegetables. They got all these folds and leaves and stuff, whether it's, broccoli, or if it's Brussels sprouts or cabbage, coated with microbes. And how do we know that? Because we ferment them and we make some kraut and we make kimchi, right? We use well, there they are. But here's the problem. When you ferment those foods, they die. They give up their life for you to make the short chain fatty acids, which can be beneficial. They're feed, the acetates and the propionates. And anyway, so what I do is juice them, juice the cruciferous vegetables, and it's a lovely probiotic. And if you really want to accentuate it, leave it out on the counter for a day or two, and it doesn't get gamey, but you'll see. And drink that. That is a marvelous elixir. Now, having said that, do I still have a probiotic formulation? Of course. See, that's a supplement though. That's supplemental to doing this. Yeah. So I really kick it up, and I actually have patients, if you have inflamed bowel, one of the things I do is oat milk. Make your own oat milk. Take that milk, mix it with the cabbage juice, maybe plus or minus aloe, plus or minus other things, charcoal or diatomaceous earth, depending on what we're doing, arabinogalactans, resistant starches, green banana flour. We have all kinds of things. But
how do you make your own oatmeal milk?
I just take a cup of oats and I put it in a quart of water and I stick it in my Vitamix and
okay.
And then I run it through a nut bag, and then boom, oat milk. Some people will put in a date or sweeten it. I don't, you don't need to do that, but oat milk and cabbage juice. Talk about a nice, calming, lovely. It's amazing. Put a couple of drops of fulvic in. Put a couple of drops of that in there. But honest truth be told, but that's it. But that's my trick. That's what I love. I love cruciferous juice for probiotics. Yeah.
And then finally, hair mineral analysis.
Yeah.
You say don't use that to determine what to eat or what supplements to take.
Yeah, that's a big lie. And so listen, hair tissue mineral analysis, I've done tens of thousands of them personally. I've reviewed the same with other clinicians that I teach it as a clinical tool. Number one, there's only 2 companies that do it right. But the thing is the minerals in your hair are absolutely, and that's the term, not indicative of the status of minerals in the body, of whether you need or not need. It is a fingerprint of the net metabolism of said minerals. So it can lend insight into your oxidative status, autonomic nervous system status over time. So it's a useful clinical tool. But I know there's a trend out there of people who are using it for mineral balancing. Well, most of the time, these are non-clinicians, non-practitioners. But I know some practitioners that have elected to use HTMA to as a tool to tell patients what minerals they should take or not. That's a lie. Either they know it or they're delusional. So it is a clinical tool for understanding I use it in balance protocols, key 7 and 6 and 7, which is oxidative stress, energy production, and then hormones. So to determine how those systems are affected. Okay. Yeah. But if you have low copper in your hair, that doesn't mean you need to take copper. If you have excess.
Yeah, go ahead.
It doesn't work like that. Okay. If you don't have enough magnesium in there, it doesn't mean you need to take magnesium. That is just erroneous. Your hair
Give me your opinion then on the big trend root cause protocol that's using hair mineral analysis, and
it's a fraud. Let me tell you about that. So back in the day, I was one of the original people in the magnesium advocacy group in Facebook. Okay. And it was Morley Robbins, nice guy, not practitioner, but he's an old guy, eloquent and stuff. And he was the magnesium man. And back then I was like, hold on a second, magnesium is amazing. Okay. But there's other things that are far more, important in the context of things too, like zinc and like copper and their balance. And now he's the copper man. So, but the point is see, root cause protocol, okay, came after balance protocol. It was a bite off of mine, but it's not mine at all. It's none of that. But see, what they do is it's a marketing narrative to give people a quick, cheap, easy $25, $50, or $100 test and then sell people product. I think that lacks integrity. That's essentially what it is. It can't be the root cause protocol. Okay. There's no such thing. Minerals are a root cause, but there's 5 root causes of all diseases. Okay. Nutrient deficiencies, number 1, stressors, allergens, microbes, and toxins. Okay. If you have disease manifest because of aberrant excessive body voltage or EMF exposure, your minerals could be fine. But not over, but see it. So minerals can't be it all the time. If you have mold mycotoxins, or if you have heavy metals, or it's in other words, it's never one thing. I know it's so much easier to sell one thing to demonize, and that's why I call them niche pickers. You know, you have people say, "Oh, it's parasites. All diseases are caused by parasites," and I'm going, "That's not true. You can have disease caused, sexual, mental, or physical trauma." Nothing to do
also, I think it's really dangerous because we know that some people have copper toxicity. So this whole, okay, everyone needs to take copper. Copper toxicity is a myth. Well, there's a whole body of work when it comes to depression and...
Oh my God, just get into Carl Pfeiffer's work. His books were one of my initial ones back in the 80s and 90s for me. It's amazing. No, but then you'll go, oh my God, well, so too much copper, bad thing. Not enough copper, bad thing. Same thing. Name an element of the 60 minerals, and you can do the same thing. But some people, their stick is iodine, and no one's getting iodine. And you see what you can do. And here's the thing: they're all correct. But what about the rest? That's like having, your spouse is just absolutely gorgeous. Look, I'm 5'8", 170. Okay, I'm not tall, dark, and handsome. I'm cute. All right, so. I wouldn't even make it. If I was on the dating marketplace now, I wouldn't get no swipe. Was it left, right? I don't know which one it is. Just because of my height.
I don't think you're right.
Well, here's my point. Don't pick one attribute. It's so much more than that. So I want everybody to hear my message that they're a category of one. They're a unique individual. They have a complex story of their lifestyle, environment, mindset, and nutrition. That's where you got to find it out. We have tools. We can help you, just like you and your voice, guiding people. But if you think it's going to be quick and easy, you're deluding. Anybody who can't give you the exclusionary criteria, who can't have you do, and they put it all into one thing, those are your hallmarks. Those are the red flags. So be mindful of that. And so, root cause. Listen, are there some things there? You can't just go and take an adrenal tonic. That's something that I started years ago, by the way. That ain't going to fix it. Listen, people say, oh, I feel better. Well, congratulations.
Placebo is a real thing. I mean, it's a shame we can't all have you in our back pocket. I just love you, and I'm so grateful for everything that you share. You're such an important voice in this crazy world. So thank you. And I'm going to make sure that we're going to share all the links and all the information and all the tests and all the evidence that you're talking about.
Anything you want to be a resource. That's my thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this time. I'm sure we'll talk again at some point, but thank you for coming back and sharing your wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate it. The pleasure's mine.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So, I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. I know it could be a bit tricky, a bit triggering, but if you want to get your hands on the mineral product that we're talking about in this podcast episode, this incredible product, that's the first product I've recommended in a long time. That happens maybe once every 2 years that I recommend a product. Go to barefootautismwarriors.com/podcasts/155 for episode 155. So that's barefootautismwarriors.com/podcasts with an S/155 for this episode, and the link so that you can get started remineralizing immediately.